What happens when a factory worker knows labor law better than his new manager? My cousin once worked with a guy named Danny at an injection molding plant in Ontario. Let's call it Canco. Danny wasn't a supervisor, wasn't a manager, but he was the person who quietly kept the entire operation moving. He showed up before everyone else, unlocked the building, turned on the lights, warmed up the machines, stocked raw materials, pulled finished product, wrapped skids, loaded trucks, and handled incoming deliveries. If a task existed, Danny had already taken care of it before anyone asked. Before the company was bought by an American parent company, Amco, finances were tight. Danny had been working long days for years, so he offered to bank his overtime instead of being paid out. Canco agreed in writing. By the end of 2019, he had accumulated a large amount and requested a payout. Right around that time, Amco sent a new facility manager to run the plant. In January 2020, the FM called Danny into the office and offered him a salary position, 44 hours a week, a yearly raise of about $6,000, and better benefits. Danny accepted, thinking it was a clean deal. Even on salary, he kept doing what he'd always done, arriving at 5:30 a.m., staying late when needed, making sure the place ran smoothly. Every week, he submitted an Excel sheet tracking his actual hours. One column showed hours in excess, marking anything above 44. By autumn, Danny followed up on his banked time. He asked the FM whether he should take it as time off or be paid for it. The Amco handbook clearly stated that unused time is lost at the end of the year, so Danny wanted a decision. The FM smiled and said, "Your salary, you don't get overtime. That's why I put you on salary." Danny calmly replied, "That's not correct. I get overtime after 44 hours. That's Ontario labor law." Then he placed a printed page from the Ontario government website on the FM's desk. The FM promised to look into it, but didn't. Danny reminded him again and again until finally, tired of waiting, he sent an email to the FM, the plant manager, Canco HR, and Amco HR, laying out everything clearly. Now they had to deal with it. Danny was called into a meeting with the plant manager, the FM, and HR. They tried to argue that he was no longer entitled to overtime, but Danny came prepared. He asked, "Do I have authority to enter contracts for the company? No. Do I have authority to assign or discipline employees? No. Then I am not exempt. Under Ontario law, only managers and supervisors are exempt. Everyone else receives overtime after 44 hours. He pointed at the totals. That number is multiplied by 1.5. You either pay me those hours or give them to me as paid time off. The meeting ended with no path for management to avoid it, and the FM was noticeably unhappy. His attempt to turn Danny into free extra labor had failed. After the meeting, the FM told him, "From now on, you don't work a single minute of overtime without my permission." Danny nodded. "Sure, I'll put that in writing." He emailed the FM, who confirmed it. This immediately created problems. Danny normally arrived more than an hour before the production team to unlock the building and warm up the machines. Those machines needed 45 to 60 minutes to heat the plastic beads used in the molds. But the very next day, Danny left at exactly 2:30 p.m., shut off his phone, and went home. A daily cross-shift meeting happened at 3 p.m., but since Danny wasn't there and he had the tally sheets, the afternoon shift had no production targets. The next morning, the FM demanded an explanation. Danny reminded him that he wasn't allowed to work outside of his scheduled hours, and answering calls after work also counted. If the meeting needed him, his schedule would have to change. So the FM updated Danny's hours to 8 a.m., 4:30 p.m., and emailed confirmation. The fallout was immediate. When the day shift foreman arrived at 6:45 a.m., the building was locked. No machines were warming up. The entire production crew waited almost an hour before anything could start. Output dropped sharply. The foreman was frustrated until Danny pointed to the FM and said, "He changed my hours." The FM now had to explain the lost production. Deliveries at 3 p.m. couldn't be handled because Danny wasn't there anymore. Saturday shifts became disorganized without the person who normally moved materials and product. Every missing piece highlighted how much invisible work Danny had been doing. Eventually, the FM reversed course. Danny received full authorization to work whatever overtime he needed. His new salary effectively raised his hourly rate by $2.75, and all extra hours were paid out each pay period. And thanks to the chatty HR rep, word spread across the office. Anyone who wasn't officially classified as a manager also qualified for overtime. Soon, employees across the plant began submitting their own overtime sheets.